Banking on Nvidia. The company's earnings a little more than 4 hours away now. We will debate how much of the AI trade is once again riding on those results. Joining me for the hour today, Joe Terranova, Stephanie Link, Malcolm Etheridge, Sarat Sethi. We will check the markets. You heard Sarah telling you we are down a little bit across the board. So we've got some red on the screen. Not so much in Nvidia lately. Those shares are having their best month in a year. All right, Joe, you get the first crack at this.
Okay.
Several issues on the table that we need to think about. Will revenues miss because of the H-20 ban in China? What does demand look like outside of China? Is there a DeepSeek overhang still? What about Middle East partnerships? And because of what I just said, best month in a year. The bar's high. The bar's higher than it used to be. We're up 40% on Nvidia since April 4th. Add that all up, and what do you get?
I think what you get is that the hardest trade is usually the best trade. The hardest trade, the most difficult thing to do, is generally the right thing to do. And the momentum, while it's up 24% month to date, it does point towards potentially taking out the all-time high from January at 153. I think what's important tonight, and you said, is revenue going to miss? Okay, revenue probably is going to miss, but I think the estimates have come down enough. The expectation, knowing that that charge is there because of the H-20 ban in China, I think we've already priced that in. So I think what's important is hearing the commentary and getting the confidence that demand is there. The demand is strong.
China. Demand outside of China.
The demand is there outside of China. The AI demand is there. We've heard from Meta that the demand is there. We saw that the Middle East, the demand is there. So the demand is able to outstrip the supply. I think that's important. And I do think, look, what we do on this show is we pick a direction sometimes, and I'm going to pick a direction. And I think the direction is higher after this evening. If the stock falls, I'm not going to come on the network and say, okay, I think you need to get out of the stock. I'm still going to like the stock because I believe in the long-term story. But I think tonight you have momentum leaning to the upside.
Malcolm, Goldman says investors are potentially underestimating volatility. There's always like a big implied move going into a number like this for a company like that. Wolf agrees with Joe. It says it's time for the stock to finally break out to the upside. Shares are flat over the last 6 months. Let's go through a couple of charts to remind our viewers where this stock hasn't gone. Let's say that. 6 months, draw a straight line across. That's what you have. It's down nearly 12% from an all-time high. Back that out to, let's say, a year or so on the charts. You can get what I'm talking about, the stock backing off from its all-time high, sitting 12% with the comeback, which has been significant. You add that up, and what do you get?
It's been a round trip. If you've been in that name more than 6 months, like you said, I myself got in March and decided to keep on adding along the way as that elevator continued to go down. And so for somebody like me, I look and I say Blackwell is what matters as far as this earnings report is concerned, right? We knew that the demand was there. They weren't able to meet the demand for whatever reason, all the different hiccups with the rollout. If we find out that they were able to ramp up production of the Blackwell chip and they haven't had to cannibalize the upgrade cycle because the next one is supposed to be 50% better than the one that exists today that they haven't been able to get out there. Add all that up to your point. If that sounds positive, at least the guidance related to it, I think we do take out that all-time high. I think if, for whatever reason, that guidance is negative, we're going in another direction.
Still always about the guidance, right? I mean, the results are the results. As Joe said, there's probably baked-in stuff at this point, but the bar is always high for the guide relative to where the stock currently sits.
It is, and the key point is visibility, right? What are they going to say for 26 and 27, and what orders do they have in the book? Because that was the one thing that we always, being a semiconductor company as opposed to having recurring revenue, where are you getting this demand? Is it the sovereign funds that we now see? How is the DeepSeek? How are they going to improvise for that? So I think that's going to be the key. Production is going to be really important. Are they going to have any hiccups in terms of where they're producing? Because how much can they do? And I think the China thing is just, it's really upside. I mean, at this point, it's discounted. They're not really going to be selling a lot in there. And if they can prove that not only are they selling Blackwell, but the upside on the other chips coming, I think the stock could move from here.
Yeah, Jensen Huang, by the way, is going to be on Mad Money tonight, live at 6 o'clock. So you get the number. You're going to hear from Jensen with Jim tonight. And sometimes it takes for an interview or a call to actually start the shares moving in one way or the other. You don't necessarily get that from the pure results. So, Steph, I turn to you and broaden it out because you don't own Nvidia, but how much of the near-term AI trade is riding on what happens tonight?
I don't think it's a demand problem at all. I think it's a supply problem for Nvidia. We all know about China. I never thought that this quarter would be the catalyst quarter for Nvidia at all. But across the board, you're still seeing the hyperscalers spending a tremendous amount of money on AI, something like $300 billion this year alone, up 40%. And next year is probably going to be up about 30%. There's no end in sight, Scott, and so you definitely want to have an opportunity to, if in fact this stock Nvidia were to fall, or Broadcom, for example, also will fall if Nvidia falls, that's when you want to take a look at it and buy more. And you know I have been buying Broadcom the last month and a half.
You and a lot of other people, because the stock is up 22% in May as the SMH is having its best month in some 2 years.
Yeah, and the reason that I own it, we do get 31% of their revenues is AI, but you also have 41% is software from the VMware acquisition, and they've done a really good job at that, and it's helped margins as well. And the cyclical businesses, which is the remaining part of the company's revenue mix, that hasn't even recovered yet, and that's what we're waiting for. So if you can get all three of these areas to see improvement, I think the stock could actually go a lot higher. It's still down about 2%, just like Nvidia year to date. It's up 36% from the April low, so it was right to be buying these stocks in April and May. So expectations are a little bit higher now, but I don't think the story is over by any means, and you want to take advantage of any dislocations on concerns about AI to be buying.
That's what Melius says today, too.